It began with a single photograph, one that no one was supposed to see. A quiet seaside cafe in Portugal. Two familiar faces sitting side by side, laughing like old friends, sharing breakfast as sunlight danced across the ocean. Jamie Dornan, Dakota Johnson. No red carpet, no cameras, no entourage. Just two people, smiling in a way that felt real. Within hours, the image had spread across social media. Fans couldn't believe it. Were their eyes playing tricks on them? Or had Hollywood's most whispered about duo been secretly spending time together all along? The headline that followed sent shockwaves through the industry. Jamie Dornan and Dakota Johnson's secret happy life, hidden from Hollywood for years. For nearly a decade, the world had speculated about them. Ever since 50 Shades of Grey first exploded onto screens, their chemistry had been impossible to ignore. It wasn't just acting. It was something deeper, something raw. Every glance, every laugh, every unscripted moment seemed to blur the line between fiction and reality. Yet after the trilogy ended, they went their separate ways. Jamie returned to family life, focusing on films that showed his dramatic side. Dakota stepped fully into her own, embracing roles that defined her as one of the most fearless women in Hollywood. To the public, it seemed like the story of Jamie and Dakota had ended. But in truth, it had only gone underground. According to one anonymous insider, they never really stopped seeing each other. They just stopped being seen. For years, the pair reportedly met quietly across Europe, sometimes in London, sometimes in small coastal towns far from the noise of Hollywood. They avoided hotels and luxury resorts, preferring private villas and local cafes where no one would recognize them. Locals in one Portuguese village recently confirmed the rumors. They come here often, one cafe owner told a local newspaper. They walk in early morning, wearing hats and sunglasses, sit by the sea, and just talk. No one bothers them. They look peaceful, like two people who have found home in each other. It wasn't the kind of romance Hollywood usually celebrates. There were no grand gestures, no red carpet hand-holding, no public declarations. It was quiet, simple, genuine, and that's what made it shocking. Jamie once hinted at this kind of life during an old interview. When asked where he found true happiness, he smiled and said, "The happiest moments of my life are never on camera." At the time, no one thought much of it. Now, that sentence feels like a confession. Meanwhile, Dakota, in a recent talk show appearance, was asked who made her feel safest in the industry. She laughed, looked down for a moment, and replied softly, "Someone who's been there since my very first big film." The audience cheered, but her tone said more than words ever could. To those who had followed their journey for years, it all suddenly made sense. The unspoken connection, the synchronized smiles, the way they always defended each other in interviews. It wasn't nostalgia, it wasn't friendship, it was something much more enduring. One source close to the two revealed, they made a choice, to live life quietly, away from the chaos. Hollywood sees love as performance. They wanted something real. Even the people closest to them admitted that Jamie and Dakota had found a rhythm together. They didn't need fame or headlines to validate what they shared. They cook, they read, they walk their dogs. "They're not pretending," said another insider. "It's not about secrecy, it's about peace." And perhaps that's why this revelation stunned Hollywood so much. In an industry where every moment is posted, shared, and monetized, the idea of two global stars choosing privacy, choosing happiness over attention, felt almost rebellious. The more people looked, the more evidence surfaced. Matching vacations, identical background details in their photos, subtle overlaps in schedules that no one had noticed before. Fans pieced it all together like detectives of love. The conclusion was impossible to deny. Jamie Dornan and Dakota Johnson had built a secret world of their own, one defined not by fame, but by calm, joy, and mutual understanding. As one fan wrote online, "They didn't disappear. They just went where the cameras couldn't follow." By the time evening fell that day, The viral photo of them in Portugal had already been analyzed by every media outlet imaginable. But what no one could capture, no filter, no zoom, no headline, was the quiet magic of that moment. Two people laughing under the morning sun, sharing a life they'd fought to protect. For Hollywood, it was unthinkable. For Jamie and Dakota, it was freedom. And as one witness beautifully said, they looked like a couple who had finally stopped pretending. Whatever they share, it's real, and it's happy. But the question everyone was asking now was simple. How did they manage to keep it secret for so long, and what happens next? The revelation shook Hollywood to its core. For years, Jamie Dornan and Dakota Johnson had mastered the art of subtle denial, always careful, always measured. But now, with the photographs out and witnesses speaking, the truth could no longer hide behind polite smiles or clever interviews. Still, what amazed everyone most wasn't that they had reconnected, it was that they had managed to keep their happiness secret for so long. Their friends, however, weren't surprised. One longtime associate revealed, Jamie and Dakota never needed to announce anything. They had their own world, their own language. You could feel it in the way they spoke to each other, quiet, effortless, intimate. According to several insiders, their bond had quietly rekindled years after 50 Shades ended. Both had gone through different relationships and stages of life, but something unspoken kept pulling them back. When they reunited at a private charity event in London, everything simply fell into place. They were sitting at opposite sides of the table, recalled one attendee. At first, it was just polite conversation. But as the night went on, they couldn't stop laughing. It was like watching two people remember who they were before the world interfered. From that evening onward, they started seeing each other again, quietly, carefully. They met during off-seasons, choosing quiet towns and hidden getaways across Europe. In Portugal, they rented a small villa overlooking the ocean. No red carpets, no stylists, no press. Just them, barefoot, cooking, walking their dogs, talking until late into the night. Jamie said it was the first time in years he felt normal, a close friend revealed. They'd walk through markets like any couple, buying fruit, coffee, flowers. Nobody looked twice. It was their escape from everything. For Dakota, that peace was what she had always craved. In a world where every detail of her life was dissected, she found comfort in the simplicity of mornings spent in silence with someone who understood her completely. When it's real, you don't need to prove it, she once said in an interview, and now, those words feel like a reflection of the life she built with Jamie behind closed doors. Even their closest circles respected the boundary. They didn't keep it secret out of shame, said another insider. They just didn't owe the world an explanation. They were protecting something sacred. Yet, secrecy in Hollywood rarely lasts forever. The turning point came when a journalist, investigating an unrelated story, stumbled upon hotel records that showed Jamie and Dakota booking adjacent rooms under pseudonyms. Soon after, a fan spotted them together in Lisbon, hand in hand, laughing as they crossed a small street. Within hours, the photo went viral. But instead of hiding, they stayed calm. They didn't deny it. They didn't release statements. They simply carried on, and that quiet confidence spoke louder than any confirmation could. For once, the headlines weren't filled with scandal or drama. They were filled with awe. Hollywood's most private love story, read one magazine cover. A decade of denial turns into a lifetime of devotion. Even colleagues who had worked with them were moved. One director who knew Jamie well said, he always said Dakota was the safest person he'd ever worked with. I think that safety became love, the kind that doesn't need fireworks, just peace. Meanwhile, Dakota's mother, Melanie Griffith, was asked about the rumors during a red carpet interview. She smiled knowingly and said only, "My daughter deserves happiness. If she's found it, I'm happy for her." As for Jamie, he was spotted weeks later leaving an airport, where reporters once again tried to get him to talk. He stopped briefly, smiled, and said, "Some things are better left between two people. But yes, I'm happy." That was all it took. 3 words, "I'm happy." And suddenly, the story wasn't about secrecy anymore. It was about love, real, imperfect, lasting love that had somehow survived the noise of fame. In the weeks that followed, more small details surfaced. Matching bracelets, shared books, playlists they both contributed to. One photograph captured Dakota sitting on a balcony, Jamie behind her, playing guitar as she listened with her eyes closed. It wasn't a movie scene. It was life, simple and beautiful. As one fan perfectly wrote online, they didn't need to announce it, because we always knew. Their love never ended, it just went underground until the world was quiet enough to handle it. Months later, during a press junket, a journalist dared to ask Dakota one final question. "Is it true you and Jamie are happy together now?" She smiled, that soft, knowing smile that started it all, and replied, "Some things are true, even if you never say them out loud." The room fell silent, and just like that, she confirmed everything, without confirming anything at all. In a world obsessed with spectacle, Jamie Dornan and Dakota Johnson had done the impossible. They found happiness in silence. As one magazine beautifully summarized it, they chose love over fame, truth over noise, and peace over everything. And for Hollywood, that was the biggest shock of all.